This is 3.4 Exercise Behaviours by Aaron Sparrowhawk. Here we'll be looking at the three key theories to exercise behaviours. The first is the Trans theoretical model. This is a theory that goes in 5 stages really. The first stage is pre-contemplation, which means a person or someone isn't thinking of making a change or isn't even considering it. Then some people may find a reason to make a change, or a cue, or something may happen, and the second stage is contemplation, deciding whether or not to make the change, weighing up barriers and advantages. The next stage would be to prepare and plan how you're going to change, and obviously the preparation in that, and how you're going to take the action. The next stage would be to actually do the action and make the change. For example, quit smoking by doing or having one less cigarette a day, as an example. Finally, the last stage is how you're going to maintain that change. How is it going to be sustainable to prevent relapse? So that's the first theory, is the Trans theoretical model. The second is the health belief model. This involves a few factors which will influence an individual's kind of ending result and decision to change. The factors are someone's decision to engage or change the behaviour. Could be weighing up benefits and barriers. That is one of them. Another one is the threat, the perceived threat of not changing and what damage this will cause by not changing. Another one is a cue of action, which could be is more personal. It's more individual and happens to specific people. For example, a family member is suffering due to the same thing that they're beginning to start to think to change about. For example, smoking or something like that. And finally, the last factor would be self-efficiency, which is self-belief and believing that they can do it and it is best for them to change. Finally, the last theory is theory of planned behaviour. This is a theory that if somebody is planned out and has planned and prepared to change, the better chance the change is going to happen and be successful. Many set a goal with no preparation and fail because there is no preparation involved beforehand, whereas this limits the chance of that. This theory includes the instrumental behaviour, which is the beneficial and harmful, weighing up barriers and positives and negatives again. It also includes affective behaviour, which is understanding how it will make the individual feel. It also includes subjective norms, which is the peer group around that specific person and how it's perceived by others. And also, again, as before, self-efficiency, which is also self-belief. All of these factors influence behavioural intention, which will ultimately decide whether or not change is going to happen. And that's what the theory of planned behaviour is about. So, scenario 1. John is 17 years old. He lives in Bedford in a very crowded city. John has done no physical exercise since he has left school. He is currently doing an apprenticeship in construction. John's diet is fairly healthy and well balanced. However, John smokes and does see the problem with smoking. He has even considered quitting. However, John's granddad suffered with lung cancer and passed away last year due to smoking. John believes in himself that he can quit. So the theory behind this would probably be the health belief model. This is because John has a cue for action, which was one of the factors in the health belief model, if you can remember. Cue for action is definitely individual and is something that is triggered by something that has happened internally, intrinsically for the person. Obviously, this would be his granddad passed away last year due to smoking, and this could affect his motivation to change. He also has self-efficiency, which is pretty much, he believes in himself, as you can see at the bottom here. He believes in himself. He can quit. He believes he can, and obviously that is a positive for him to change. He also knows the threats of smoking, what can happen. Obviously, from the cue of action, that can link. Those two factors are linking currently because he knows the threats because of what has happened to his granddad. So those two link, and also that's going to motivate him to change more. The only thing that John hasn't really done yet that is involved in this theory is weighing up the positives and negatives. And we could use a decision balance sheet for John to help weigh up his options, so he'll be able to see right in front of him what's good and what's bad about quitting, which will allow him to make an overall decision. Scenario 2. Amy is 18, she lives in Horsham with her parents. Amy is swimming at a very high standard for her club and county. Amy tends to over-prepare, think and plan before all her competitions. However, recently, Amy's diet has been poor, as many of her friends outside of swimming eat poorly, and it's starting to affect her performance. She believes she should change her diet immediately, but she doesn't know how to go about it. Amy can be linked to the theory of planned behaviour. This is because a theory is a result of behavioural intention and factors that change around it. For example, her subjective norms. Subjective norms were a big influence on behavioural intention and how people want to change and whether or not they should. Subjective norms is about the peer group, and obviously it says when she's going out with her friends, they're eating poorly, so almost she's doing it because they're doing it almost. And obviously that's not going to help her in changing. So for her to change that subjective norm or influence it, she could try eating healthier around that group or that her friends or outside of swimming that she is hanging around with and eating poorly. She should try changing the diet, which will change the subjective norm totally if it starts sinking in. However, what benefits Amy is she understands that changing is beneficial and the results are going to be better in her performance because she's changing, and that factor is behavioural attitude, which is obviously going to influence her behavioural intentions change. Finally, the final factor that will dictate her behavioural intention is perceived behavioural control, which is her self-belief, which isn't really shown here. So obviously to believe in herself, obviously she needs to look at her personal performance and believe that she can do it, and she's done sporting performances before, and that she can do this, she can do it, it's beneficial for her and she can definitely do it, which is hard to kind of teach. It's something that comes naturally to some people, but obviously she's a very high talented performer, so I think it'll be a lot easier for her. Finally, scenario 3. Felix is a 32-year-old, he lives on his own in southeast London, and currently does no exercise and is overweight. He doesn't understand that not doing exercise is bad, and he hasn't even considered participating in any activities or doing any exercise. However, Felix doesn't smoke and isn't a big drinker. So, for the final scenario, Felix can be linked to the trans-theoretical model of behavioural change. This is because the theory is almost planned, is almost a planned way that change happens. It starts at pre-contemplation, which Felix is currently at, and in order to move to contemplation, he would need to understand threats of not exercising, and what he's doing currently is unhealthy. Once he's at contemplation, it would then begin to be like, okay, how can we start to prepare him for the change? How can we do some preparation in order for this to happen? So this could write down a 6-week plan on exercise, or something like that, anything really. And then obviously the next stage would be to take action at this and actually do the program and do the plan, and after it would be sustaining being healthy and being active, which could, the easiest way to do it would almost be stick to the guidelines after the program, which would be 150 minutes exercise a week. And that's how it kind of links with the trans-theoretical model. It starts at pre-contemplation, and in order for us to change, it would have to go to contemplation, which would then link back to the trans-theoretical model.